Control and coordination. Animals and plants produce responses to stimuli. Shivering to cold weather. Here, cold weather is the stimuli and the response is shivering. A plant bending towards sunlight. In this case, sunlight is the stimulus and bending of plant is the response. Mouth watering to an ice cream. In this case, ice cream is the stimuli and salivation, that is mouth watering, is the response. School principal's sudden visit to the classroom. If this is your stimuli, what would be your response? Write it in the comment box. But why do organisms produce responses to stimuli? Most of the responses produced by the organisms protect them from the dangerous stimuli. But which systems help the organisms to produce responses to stimuli? Nervous system and hormonal systems help the organisms to produce responses to stimuli. Nerve cells play an important role in detecting the stimuli. Nerve cells are also called as neurons. Each neuron has different parts like cell body, nucleus, dendrites, axon, and nerve endings. The neurons that are present in the sense organs have specialized tips called as receptors. These receptors detect the stimuli and converts it into electrical impulses. So we have different types of receptors in our body. Some receptors detect the smell, some receptors detect the pain, some detect the temperature, some detect the taste. The receptors that are present in the nose are called olfactory receptors. They help in detecting the smell. The receptors that are present in our tongue, which helps in detecting the taste, are called as gustatory receptors. The information that is collected by the receptors is carried by the neurons to other parts of the nervous system. So the neurons carry the information to different parts of the nervous system. This is called as nerve conduction. The neurons collect the nerve impulses by their dendrites and pass them to the other neurons by their nerve endings. So the collection of nerve impulses takes place at the dendrites and passing of nerve impulses to the next neuron by their nerve endings. But here, the nerve endings of one neuron and dendrites of another neuron are not directly attached to one another. There is some gap between them. This junction is called as synapse. If the endings of one neuron and the starting of another neuron, if they are not directly connected, then how the conduction of nerve impulse takes place? How the signals pass from one neuron to another neuron if there is such gap? See, at the end of the nerve terminals of a neuron, the electrical impulses are converted into chemical signals. This chemical signal is in the form of a gas. It crosses the gap and reaches the dendrites of another neuron. There, it is again converted to electrical signal. The neurons that carry the information from sense organs to brain or spinal cord are called sensory neurons. Sensory neurons usually carry the information about the stimuli. The neurons that carry the information from brain or spinal cord to muscles or glands are called motor neurons. So these neurons, they bring the orders from the brain or spinal cord to different body parts. And here, there are two pathways in which responses are produced to stimuli in our body. In one pathway, information about the stimulus passes to spinal cord and then from spinal cord to brain. Now the response is generated in the brain. That means the processing of information about the stimulus takes place in the brain. Now the brain processes the information and it produces some response. It gives some orders which are passed down to the spinal cord, and again from spinal cord they are finally reached to the muscles. This is a long pathway and it takes considerable amount of time to produce responses because the information has to pass first to spinal cord, then to brain, again from brain to spinal cord, and spinal cord to the target tissues. But in some situations, organisms need to produce very quick responses to protect themselves from the dangerous stimuli. For example, when we touch a hot object, we should remove our hand immediately. There is no such long time to think and take the decisions. In such cases, our body takes a short pathway. In this pathway, information about the stimuli passes to the spinal cord, where it is processed quickly and the responses are produced in the spinal cord itself. Now these responses directly reach the muscles and it causes immediate movements and protects us. This kind of quick responses are called reflex actions. So the pathway by which a reflex action is executed is called reflex arc. Now let's see the different parts of this reflex arc. It has got receptors which receive the information about the stimuli and sensory neurons which carry this information from receptor to the spinal cord and relay neurons. So these neurons, they process the information about the stimuli and produce the responses. And these responses are carried by the motor neurons. So the motor neurons, they carry these responses from spinal cord to the effector. Effector means it can be either muscles or glands. That is the final organ where the movement takes place. So these are the components of the reflex arc, and this is how a reflex arc functions. The nervous system is divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system, it consists of brain and spinal cord, whereas the peripheral nervous system, it consists of nerves. Brain is an important and delicate organ of our body. It has to be protected from injuries and shocks and blows. Our brain is covered by a fluid-filled balloon-like structure. This structure is made up of 3 layers. These layers are called meninges. And between the meninges, there is a kind of fluid. The fluid present between these layers is called cerebrospinal fluid. So, these meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid protects the brain from shocks and injuries. Brain, along with the meninges, is protected by an outer bony case called as cranium. In general terms, it is called as skull. It is a hard bony structure that protects the brain from shocks and injuries. Brain is the main coordinating center of our body. It receives the information from all parts of our body and integrates it. The main functions of our brain are thinking, decision making, storing information, producing emotions, and controlling body functions, both voluntary and involuntary. The functions that are under our will are called voluntary functions. Examples like writing, talking, dancing, clapping. These are the examples of voluntary functions which are controlled by our brain. The actions that are not under our control are called involuntary actions, like digestion, heartbeat, sneezing. These are some examples of involuntary actions which are controlled by human brain and spinal cord. Now let us see which part of the brain controls which functions. The brain has 3 main parts, namely the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Forebrain. The thought process takes place in the forebrain. It has regions which receive sensory impulses from various receptors. The forebrain has different centers for hearing, smell, sight, etc. The information from different sense organs is analyzed and compared with the information already stored in our brain. Based on the analysis, the forebrain takes a decision and sends it to the area of the brain which controls the movements of our voluntary muscles. For example, if we are playing football, our eyes sends the information about the position of the ball to the area of the brain which analyzes it. After analysis, a decision is taken and the information is sent to the area of the brain which executes it. It causes the necessary movements in our muscles and makes us kick the ball in right direction with right force. The sensation of hunger and feeling full is also controlled by a separate area of forebrain. Next, we see midbrain. Midbrain controls the visual and auditory reflexes. That means it controls the reflexes related to vision and hearing. It also has center for controlling the movements of our eye and eyelids. Hindbrain. Hindbrain has three parts, namely pons, medulla oblongata, and cerebellum. These parts control the involuntary functions of our body. Pons controls sleep and wake cycle and breathing. Medulla controls heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, and more involuntary functions. Cerebellum. It is responsible for precision of voluntary actions and maintaining posture and balance of the body, like walking in a straight line, riding a bicycle, drawing an art. All these are possible because of cerebellum. Coordination in plants. Do plants respond to stimuli? Yes. Plants respond to stimuli like sunlight, water, soil, touch, chemicals, etc. But most of these responses are in the form of movements. That means plants show movements for sunlight, water, soil, touch, and chemicals. For example, stems bending towards sunlight. We observe this phenomena. Plant stems bend towards sunlight. And roots of the plants, they grow towards the soil or water. And tendrils of the plants, which have weak stems, like creepers, we can observe that the tendrils of the plants coil around the support. And we also observe the closing of leaves of touch-me-not plant when it is touched. So all these are the responses that are produced in the form of movements. Then how do plants produce movements? We know that animals produce movements with the help of nervous system and muscular system. But plants do not have neither nervous system nor a muscular system, like in animals, to produce movements. The movements in plants are caused either by growth or by changing the shape of the cell. Now let us see which movements in plants are caused due to growth. The movements in plant pods like stem moving towards sunlight, roots growing towards soil, and tendrils coiling around some support, and the pollen tube from the pollen grain growing towards the ovule, all these are caused due to growth. In fact, these movements are the responses for different stimuli. The directional movements that are shown by plants in response to environmental stimuli are called tropic movements. Movement of plant parts towards sunlight is called phototrophism. Example, stem bending towards light. So this phenomenon is called phototropism. And movement of plant parts towards the soil is called geotropism. Example, roots growing towards soil. And movement of plant parts towards the water is called hydrotropism. Example, roots, they grow towards water, they move towards water. And movement of plant parts in the direction of an object that it touches is called thigmotrophism. Here the example, tendrils coiling around the support. And movement of plant parts towards a chemical stimulus is called chemotropism. So this is observed in pollen tube. The pollen tube, it grows towards the ovule. When a pollen grain reaches the stigma of a flower, the pollen grain germinates and it grows the pollen tube. Now let's see what causes the tropic movements in plants. Tropic movements in plants are caused due to some special compounds called as phytohormones, means plant hormones. For example, if a plant tip has to bend towards right, that is right side, the cells in the left side part of the tip get elongated. So when the left side cells are elongated, the right side cells are in the normal size. What happens? It makes the plant bend towards right. The elongation of cells in the left half of the plant tip is caused by a phytohormone called as auxin. This plant hormone, auxin, helps in the elongation of cells in one side. So it leads to bending of the tip. In this way, the movements are caused by the hormones. Now let us see some major phytohormones and their functions. The 5 major phytohormones are auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, ethylene, and abscisic acid. First, we see auxins. Auxins stimulate the cells to grow longer. They make the cells grow longer, and they are responsible for trophic movements in plants. We have seen some trophic movements in plants like phototrophism, zeotrophism, this kind of trophic movements. So, auxin is responsible for that trophic movements. And these auxins, they are mostly concentrated in the young root and shoot tips. So, auxins are found in the root tips and in shoot tips. Next, gibberellins. Gibberellins helps in the stem and root elongation in plants. They also help in the plant growth. They help in the elongation of stem and root. Cytokinins. Cytokinins promote cell division. They help in the cell division. Cell division means formation of new cells. So when new cells are formed, that is called as growth. The weight, the mass of the plant increases, the size of the plant increases. And these cytokinins are mostly found in fruits, seeds. In fruits and seeds, rapid cell division takes place. The size of the fruit increases day by day till it completely grown. So how the size of the fruit increases? By repeated cell divisions. So the cell divisions are promoted by which hormone? Cytokinin. And next, abscisic acid. This hormone acts as a growth inhibitor. Inhibitor means which stops. So abscisic acid stops the growth. So this hormone helps in the wilting of leaves. When the leaves become old, they turn yellow in color. Finally, they get detached from the stem and falls down. So this process is initiated by this hormone abscisic acid. And ethylene. Ethylene is a phytohormone. It stimulates ripening of fruits. Once the fruit is completely grown, then the fruit it gets ripened. The ripening of fruit takes place and it is activated by the hormone ethylene. So this is all about the plant hormones. Now let us see the hormones in animals. We have seen that control and coordination in animals is done by the nervous system, but there is another system that helps in coordination in animals. So what is the second way of control and coordination in animals? In animals, the second way of control and coordination is done by endocrine system, that is hormonal system. The endocrine system is composed of various endocrine glands like pituitary gland, thyroid gland, adrenal gland, pancreas, testes, and ovaries. These are endocrine glands. We have some other glands in our body like liver, salivary glands. Those are not endocrine glands. Those are exocrine glands. These are endocrine glands. So the glands that secrete the hormones are called endocrine glands. So all these glands, they secrete some special chemical compounds called hormones. Now let's see what are the functions of hormones and how they are supplied to different parts of our body. Hormones help to control many body functions such as growth, repair, and reproduction. Hormones are secreted by glands in very small quantity. Hormones are produced in very small quantities. Then how these hormones reach different parts of our body? These hormones reach different parts of our body through blood circulatory system. But here we are learning that the hormone is secreted in very minute quantity. If it is secreted into the bloodstream, then it gets supplied to all the body parts. How does it work? Let's see. Once a hormone is released into the bloodstream, it is supplied to all the body parts. But it acts only on the target tissue or organ. That means if the hormone, it has to work on kidneys, even though it is supplied to all the body parts, other body parts will not accept it. Only the target organ, which organ needs that hormone, it accepts it. So in such a way, hormones are supplied by the blood circulatory system. How do hormones help our body in producing a response towards a stimulus? Let's understand the functioning of hormones with an example. If a person is attacked by a dog, then he should either fight with the dog or run away from the dog. So here the dog's attack is the stimulus and the man running or escaping is the response. In such a situation, a hormone called adrenaline is secreted by adrenal glands in our body. Adrenal glands are present on the top of the kidneys. So this kind of situation is called as fight or flight situation. So when we are in such a danger situation, fight or flight situation, that means we have to fight with the dog or flight, run away from the dog. So for both the processes, either to fight or to flight, our muscles need large amounts of glucose and oxygen. Then how do the large amount of glucose comes to our muscles to do either fight or flight? It is done by the adrenaline. The main function of adrenaline is to increase the supply of oxygen and glucose to our skeletal muscles. So because in such a situation, our muscles need lot of glucose and oxygen either to fight or flight. So the supply of glucose is stimulated by the adrenal hormone. Even though adrenaline is supplied to all the parts of our body, only few organs accept it and functions accordingly. Adrenaline mainly affects our eyes, blood vessels. Adrenaline is supplied to all the parts of our body. Only few organs accept it and functions accordingly. Adrenaline mainly affects our eyes, blood vessels, heart, lungs, and muscles. Due to the action of adrenaline, our heart beats faster and supplies more oxygen to our muscles. So when we are frightened, we observe that our heart beats fast. Why it is beating fast? Because to pump more oxygen, more glucose to the muscles. And also, the blood from the digestive system and skin is taken and sent to the muscles. So the blood in the digestive system and skin is reduced and it is diverted to the muscles. So our muscles will be rushed with more blood, more oxygen, more glucose because they have some emergency. Adrenaline also increases the breathing rate by increasing the muscular movements of diaphragm and rib muscles. So adrenaline increases the breathing rate. Not only the heartbeat, the breathing rate is also increased. We breathe a lot. So this breathing rate is increased by the muscular movements of diaphragm and rib muscles. That is also done by the adrenaline. So this is how adrenaline helps us to produce a response during a dangerous or harmful stimuli. So this response is to protect us from the danger. So why is it important to have iodized salt in our diet, and how is it connected to our endocrine system? So we see the ads, it is advised to consume iodized salt in place of normal salt because iodine is an important mineral required for our body. Do you know why iodine is necessary? Iodine is essential for making a hormone called as thyroxine. This hormone is produced by thyroid gland, which is present at the neck region. The main function of this thyroxine is to control the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So these are the nutrients that we obtain from the food. So the metabolism of these nutrients is controlled by this thyroxine hormone. So that means our food intake and body growth are well balanced by this hormone. If we do not have sufficient iodine in our diet, it may lead to low production of thyroxine and causes a disease called goiter. So the main symptom of this disease is swollen neck. Next, which hormone is responsible for our growth? Growth hormone secreted by pituitary gland is responsible for regular body growth. The growth of skeletal muscles and bone is under the control of growth hormone. So we say when a person's muscles and bones are growing and he is becoming tall, then we say he is growing. So growth is observed in teenagers. They grow very fast. In their body we can see the growth of skeletal muscles and bones growing, their height increasing. This is all happens because of a hormone called growth hormone. The deficiency of this growth hormone leads to a condition called dwarfism. So if the growth hormone is not produced, they do not grow at a normal rate and they become very short. So their growth is stunted. This condition is called dwarfism. In some people, overproduction of growth hormone takes place. The overproduction of growth hormone leads to a condition called gigantism. So gigantism means giant. He becomes a giant, more than the normal height. Usually people grow up to some 6 feet or 6 point some inches. But some people may grow beyond that, 7 feet more than that. So it's all because of overproduction of growth hormone. So this condition is called as gigantism. So low production of growth hormone, dwarfism. Overproduction of growth hormone, gigantism. Next, which hormone is called the male hormone and why is it called so? Testosterone is called as male sex hormone. It is called so because it helps in the development of secondary sexual characters like growth of mustache, growth of beard, development of testes, and production of sperms in boys. Which hormone is called female sex hormone and why is it called so? Estrogen is called as female sex hormone. It is called so because it helps in the development of secondary sexual characters in females like development of breasts, beginning of menstruation, development of ovaries, etc. Why do doctors suggest some people to eat less sugars and starchy foods in their diet? Doctors suggest some people to eat less sugary and starchy foods because they are suffering from a disease called as diabetes. Our blood contains glucose. The normal level of glucose in our blood is 99 milligrams per 100 ml of blood. If our blood glucose level rises, then a hormone called insulin is secreted by our pancreas. This insulin controls the raising blood sugar levels.